Joan of Arc, the teenager who saved France. A little girl with a whole army of dreams and courage inside her, the very famous Joan of Arc. Just a heads up. This vlog and script were made with AI tools, so any mistakes or mix-ups are totally unintentional. What does it take to change the world? A king? An army? A genius? What if I told you it took a 17-year-old peasant girl from the middle of nowhere, who couldn't read or write, to reshape the map of Europe? A girl who claimed that she heard voices from God. This is the incredible, brutal, and inspiring story of Joan of Arc. This is not just history. This is a story about believing in yourself against all odds. Stick around, because this one is wild. Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orleans. Her story in next 9 minutes. The humble beginning. Domremy, France. Our story starts around 1412 in Domremy, a tiny village in eastern France. Joan, or Jeanne d'Arc, was born into a family of poor farmers. She was devout, she tended the animals, and she learned to spin wool. Pretty standard for the time, but France itself was a mess. It was deep into the 100 Years' War with England. A huge chunk of northern France, including Paris, was under English control. The French king, Charles VI, was unstable, and his son, the Dauphin Charles VII, hadn't been crowned because the traditional coronation city, Reims, was held by the enemy. Morale was at rock bottom, and then, at age 13, everything changed for Joan. She was in her father's garden when she experienced it, a blinding light, and a voice. Joan of Arc famously claimed to have heard divine voices. Beginning around the age of 13, she identified these voices as coming from 3 saints who guided and inspired her mission. Saint Michael the Archangel, often depicted as a warrior angel, he was the first voice Joan reported hearing. He symbolized divine protection and leadership. Saint Catherine of Alexandria, a learned and noble martyr known for her wisdom and eloquence, she was one of the saints Joan said appeared to her in visions. Saint Margaret of Antioch, another virgin martyr, often associated with courage and spiritual strength, she was also among the voices Joan claimed to hear. These saints, according to Joan, instructed her to support Charles VII and help drive the English out of France, an extraordinary mission for a teenage peasant girl. Her unwavering belief in these visions became central to her trial and legacy. Pretty wild how history turns on moments like that, isn't it? Their message was clear and unbelievable. You must go to the Dauphin, raise the siege of Orleans, and lead him to Reims to be crowned the true king of France. Imagine being a teenage girl with that on your to-do list. Part 2. The mission. Convincing a king. At 16, she decided it was time to act. She convinced a local nobleman to give her an escort. She cropped her hair short, dressed in men's clothes for safety on the road, and traveled through dangerous territory to the Dauphin's castle at Chinon. Now, the Dauphin Charles was skeptical, to say the least. To test her, he disguised himself among his courtiers. But Joan, who had never seen him, walked straight into the crowded room and identified him immediately. She then supposedly told him a secret prayer he had made, convincing him she was the real deal. The theologians examined her for weeks and found nothing but piety and humility. Reluctantly, Charles gave her what she wanted, a suit of white armor, a banner that read Jesus, Maria, and command of an army. Think about that, a girl who had never held a sword was now leading thousands of seasoned, skeptical soldiers. Her weapon wasn't brute strength, it was unshakable faith and a newfound talent for strategy. Part 3. The achievements. The warrior saint. Her first and greatest military achievement was at Orleans. The city had been under English siege for months and was on the verge of surrender. Joan arrived, her presence electrifying the French troops. In just 9 days, she led them to a series of stunning victories, breaking the siege and forcing the English to retreat. The victory was a miracle. She became known as the Maid of Orleans. Next, she began a lightning campaign through enemy territory, clearing the way to Reims. City after city fell to her army. Her reputation alone started to cause the English to flee. On July 17, 1429, she achieved her divine mission. She stood beside the Dauphin. He was crowned King Charles VII of France in Reims Cathedral. A peasant girl had saved France and made a king. She was 17 years old. Part 4. The capture and trial, betrayal and injustice. But the story doesn't have a happy ending. Joan's luck ran out. During a skirmish outside Compiègne, she was pulled from her horse and captured by Burgundian soldiers, French allies of the English. They sold her to the English for a massive sum of money. King Charles VII, the king she made, did nothing to save her. She was abandoned. The English couldn't execute her for beating them in battle, so they charged her with heresy. Her real crime was embarrassing them. The trial was a sham. They interrogated her for months, trying to trap her. They focused on her voices and her choice to wear men's armor, calling it a sin against God. But Joan was sharp. She defended herself brilliantly against educated theologians. When asked if she knew she was in God's grace, a trick question, as no one could know that, she famously replied, "If I am not, may God put me there. If I am, may God so keep me." The court was stunned into silence. Yet, the outcome was never in doubt. They found her guilty. Part 5. The punishment. The fire at Rouen. Terrified of the fire, and after being threatened, Joan signed a document renouncing her visions. She was sentenced to life in prison. But her captors tricked her. They took away her clothes and left her only with a dress, forcing her back into men's attire for her own modesty. They then used this as proof she had relapsed into heresy. On May 30, 1431, at just 19 years old, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in the old market square of Rouen. She died holding a crucifix and calling out the name of Jesus. Her ashes were scattered in the Seine River to prevent anyone from collecting relics. Part 6. The legacy. Why she matters. But that's not the end. Her story refused to die. The memory of the Maid fueled French resistance. In 1456, a mere 25 years after her death, the Church held a new trial, annulled the charges against her, and declared her innocent. She had become a national symbol of France. Centuries later, in 1920, she was canonized as a saint. So why is she a symbol of courage? Ultimate conviction. She believed in something so deeply that she moved kings and armies. She stood by her truth, even when it cost her everything. Defying expectations, she shattered every single norm of her time, gender, class, you name it. She proved that your origin doesn't define your destiny. Moral courage. Her greatest strength wasn't on the battlefield. It was in that courtroom, alone, defending her conscience against a powerful, corrupt system. She represents the idea that one voice, one person, no matter how seemingly insignificant, can ignite change. She is the patron saint of France, soldiers, and captives. Her story is a reminder that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action in spite of it. It's about listening to your own voice, even when the whole world tells you you're wrong. What do you guys think? Is Joan of Arc one of the most fascinating figures in history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which historical warriors do you want me to vlog about next? I'm all ears. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most incredible stories. Thanks for watching.